Vietnam's fairy tale, the tale of the Irrawaddy Dolphin or the monkfish. Once upon a time, there was a young monk who was devoutly pious. After more than 30 years of hard practice, he had memorized all the Buddhist scripture by heart and was also good at preaching. Yet, he had not gained accomplishment. He told himself, "I must go to the Buddha's land to search for an opportunity to become a Buddha." With that thought, he decided to fight his way to Buddha's land in the West. The road from home to Pakistan was far and tough. The transportation means at that time were mostly on land and on foot. Walking to the remote area like that contained danger in every step, but the young monk was so determined to set out towards the west. The journey has lasted 50 days. The monk lost his way many times and caught a fever quite a few times, but thanks to people's help, he recovered. Whenever overcoming the sickness, he resumed his journey. One day, when he arrived at the forest, it was already late afternoon. He tried to find a place to stay as he felt chilly. Fortunately, in the deep forest, he suddenly saw a house. Hearing the call, an old woman stepped down the stilt house. He plainly expressed his intention to ask for a night stay. But as soon as the old lady saw the guest, she waved her hand in confusion. "Move away! Hurry up! If my son comes back, he won't let you leave." The monk replied, "I am so exhausted now. I can't walk anymore. If you don't give me a break, I'm going to lie down here at the door." The old lady said, "Alas, my son was a monster who eats human beings. Hurry up, he's back now." But the monk threw down his handbag and lay down on the ground. His knees bumped into each other. The old woman, not knowing what to say, how to do, took his hand and dragged him to a large stone cave. After pushing him in, the woman told him to keep quiet, to avoid a tragic death. Then the old lady piled wood and leaves to cover the cave discreetly. It was dark when the monster came home, carrying a deer. He stopped at the foot of the stair and sniffed many times. He said, "You smell like flesh, Mom." "Isn't it the meat you are carrying?" replied his mother. "No, human flesh. I know this. There's a smell of human flesh." Before the old woman could stop him, he threw the deer on the floor and ran to fight. He soon was able to drag the unconscious monk from the cave to his room. When waking up, the monk saw that the monster holding a spear in his hand. The monster shouted, "Where are you going?" The monk looked closely and saw that the monster had no difference from ordinary people, so he replied calmly, "I'm looking for Buddha." "What for?" The monk then told him his purpose. Then he went on explaining the path of compassion to him. The monk talked on and on, recounting how many hardships along the way and his ultimate desire to see Buddha, so that Buddha supported his accomplishment. The monk spoke so persuasively that the mother and son of the monster were moved to tears. Recognizing that they sincerely regretted, he told them that they too would become eternal and would lead a happy life in Nirvana, the land of great happiness, if they stopped evil deeds and did the good ones. The spearhead in monster's hand fell to the floor. The vicious wrinkles had now softened. The next morning, when he was about to leave, the mother and son of monster happily prepared food for him. They sent him off again to the other side of the rocky mountain. As he was about to say goodbye, the monster asked, "What should I offer to Buddha?" The monk replied, "His heart is Buddha. Just your heart is enough." He did not expect that the monster pulled out his spearhead, quickly cut his own stomach, pulled out a whole bunch of guts, and handed it to him and said, Please help me to give this to Buddha." He was so embarrassed. It was only because Master misunderstood his words. Now, how could he do? He finally looked into the eyes of the monster, nodded in acceptance, robbed the poor man's guts and put it on his shoulder, and walked away. After a few days walking, he came out of the jungle and found the blue sea in front of him, expanding vast to the horizon. The sky and the sea shared the happy colors, but the monk felt totally unhappy. The Buddha's offering of the monster weighed heavily on his shoulders. If that was all, it was not too bad, but the problem was a terrible smell of rotten flesh from the guts inside. The monk muttered, "With this smell, how dare the inns along the way receive me?" The next day, unable to bear it any more, he threw the monster heart into the sea. The monk went on, and finally he came to Buddha's land in the west. But when he prostrated himself before the Buddha's throne and raised the question why he could not attain accomplishment, there was a voice echoing from the high pedestal down to him. "There is a thing missing to bring you to accomplishment." He was astonished. Trying to raise his eyes a little, on the high, he saw somebody look like the monster and his mother. The monk immediately understood. Buddha was already aware of his lack of sincerity and devotion, and the monster and his mother had attained enlightenment through a quick moment, thanks to their pure sincerity. He knelt there for a long time in undescribed shame. The monk then returned to the old place to find the guts. The sea was immense and deep, but he tried to dive up and down to look for the special offerings to Buddha that the monster gave him. The monk thought that only by doing so would he dare to meet monster and his mother again, and could he come back near the lotus throne of Buddha. He swam up and down, on and on. Then he became a fish that people now call the Irrawaddy Dolphin or the monk fish. Until today, the family of this fish had a bald head like that of the monk. They go in school and dive up and down with no rest. The fishermen also say the fish hates those who tease them. Whoever teases them or recounts the old story of their ancestor, they will wreck the boat or tear the net. On the contrary, whoever praises them or cheers with them, they will dive many times to offer a good performance.